Rockinitis.
Oh, doctor, doctor, tell me what to do. He said, don't stop rocking, son, till you are through. He said, doctor, doctor, what's the matter with me? He said, the Rockinitis won't let you be. Well, I tried to stop rocking, but I've been told Rockinitis has got my soul.
Hi, cats and kittens. Welcome to Rockinitis. My name is Michael Willmore, and my special guest here is Rob Frith. You have a record store on between 19th and 20th?
Yeah, on Main Street,
on Main
Vancouver.
Street. And you've been there a long time?
Well, in that location, just over 5 years. But I opened in '81 and was on Fraser Street, since
Originally,
1981.
yeah. Okay. Yeah, I've been going to you, I think, ever since you had a store anywhere.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. And then we also started the record swap meets before that. We organized those as well.
So your store, Neptune Records, actually organizes the record swap meets?
We do now, yeah.
How many are there? How many are there in a year?
2 a year, September and April.
Okay. And our subject matter today is novelty records.
Yeah.
Now, can you define novelty records?
Well, yeah, it's kind of. I'm not sure. There's a fine line between what is considered a comedy record, or just a regular sort of weird record, or a novelty record.
Well, there's different kind of subcategories. Like there's weird and wacky.
Yeah.
Like how does weird and wacky differ from novelty?
Yeah, I know. It's kind of a hard.
I mean, a lot of things that are weird and wacky are also novelty records.
That's right.
They don't make novelty records now like they used to?
No, they don't. Except Weird Al, maybe.
Yeah, like Weird Al Yankovic
Yeah.
is definitely in the novelty genre and is doing novelty records just like people did in the old days, such as Ray Stevens or Larry Verne or somebody like that. His records are very similar to those people's records?
That's right.
So he's in the tradition, but he's really the only one.
Yeah, he's and he actually like Stan Freberg. He really looked up to Stan Freberg, and when Weird Al had his own TV show for a while, Stan Freberg was a guest on it.
Oh, okay.
So he had him doing puppetry stuff, which is something Stan Freberg used to do.
Oh, yeah. Anyway, what was sort of neat about it is it parodied rock and roll as it went along. These novelty records made fun of rock and roll itself, it's like an insider joke almost.
Yeah.
And it kind of parodied it as it developed and as it evolved.
And they became big hits.
Yes.
That's the thing, because it kind of crossed boundaries. Like you get adults buying it and kids like crazy, and then like people that would never buy a record would go and hear this funny song.
Well, I
so
think
they go buy
radio actually really loved novelty records because they were so entertaining.
Well, yeah, and it broke up the boredom of playing the same old thing all
and they
the
were
time.
so entertaining and fun that it made listening to the radio a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah.
When you heard like these hilarious
yeah,
records.
and they were fun. As a kid, I just loved them.
Okay. We're going to start off with a guy called Louis Nye.
Yeah, or Louis Nye.
Or Louis Nye. Now, who was he exactly?
Well, he was an actor, and he started out on the Steve Allen Show as kind of the man in the field, kind of like a beatnik type guy that would be out doing sort of remote things for the Steve Allen Show. And then he...
Oh, like a man on the street interviewer.
Yeah, kind of like that.
So he would stop people on the sidewalk and ask them goofy questions.
Yeah, that sort of thing. Okay. And then he did this single, like kind of a beatnik sort of thing. And he went on to be on the Beverly Hillbillies. Most people actually will know him from that. He was the Drysdale's sort of annoying, rich, lazy son, Sonny Drysdale.
Okay.
So he was on, I think, for 1 or 2 seasons. And he actually was sort of, they kind of like squeezed him out because he came across as being, well, they didn't really say gay then, but a little bit too light in the loafers for that
For that time period.
For that time period, like people are a little bit weird about it, you know, and they just didn't. The sponsors didn't
now
want
that's
them.
an asset.
Yeah, well, whatever. But I mean, anyways, they squeezed him out of the show and he was just playing a part. You know, it was just so odd. But anyways, he went on to do this really kind of a quirky, interesting, funny thing on the beatnik sort of slang. Of the day.
Well, the thing is called teenage beatnik.
Yeah.
Now, teenage denotes it being part of the rock and roll milieu.
Yeah.
And then beatnik was kind of like the hipster types in the
That's
50s.
right.
And the flip side is actually called Roland Rockoff. Anyway, this guy didn't he have a record out called Hi Ho Steve Areno?
Well, he used to say that on the show.
Oh,
yeah, I think he did have a record.
I remember hearing
so.
something on the radio.
That's right.
And it sort of went, hi ho, Steve Areno.
That's right. Yeah, well, I
Sort of
used to
went
say
like
that when they would have contact on the show, you know, back
Okay.
and forth, and that was kind of the big catchphrase of the show for a while.
Okay, so let's have a listen here to Teenage Beatnik, Louis Nye on the Wig record label, 1959.
I'm a real gone teenage beatnik. I'm a beatnik and I'm really hip. I love to smile with a droopy lip. I play the bongos, I don't drive a jack. I don't dig squares, man, they're a drag.
Just a teenage beatnik. Just a teenage beatnik. Just a teenage beatnik.
I don't dig squares, man, they're a drag. I don't dig the classes in the school. I flip when I hear Frankie singing cool. Don't give me records lest they're stereo. I call my girlfriend's father Daddy-O.
It's kind of funny too, because when we were talking about doing this show, I was going through my record collection and I'm pulling out all these weird things that I have no idea why I've kept them. But like I remember, I meant to go listen to all of them, like because there's all these bizarre titles and stuff like that. But it's kind of cool, you know, picking up these unusual things.
Well, they're novelty records. Like you hear them all the time at the time they're out.
Yeah.
And then so you go out and buy it like a fool, you know, and then but you don't sit around listening to it because it's like the musicality of them is fairly minimal.
Yeah, that's true.
I mean, you don't sort of sit there and marvel at the intonation and the guitar solo and all the kinds of things that you're drawn to music with regularly.
But usually the title of it is what draws you to buying the record.
Yeah, so
like if you don't know what it is, like if you just happen to be looking through a bunch of records and you see something that says "My Boomerang Won't Come Back."
Oh yeah.
I mean, you know, you're going to buy that if it's cheap.
Exactly. So it's like, but a lot of these records are actually marvelous works of art.
Oh yeah.
I mean, the humor in them is so integral and so built in that when you listen to them like decades later, it's amazing how funny and, you know, brilliant they are.
Yeah, and to capture the audience like they did, like, you know, to sell like 1 million copies of
Well,
one
like I
single.
said, I mean, radio loved novelty records and just played the heck out of them.
Yeah.
And it seemed like a lot of like the real big novelty record hits got airplay like on high rotation, like once an hour.
Yeah,
You know,
that's right.
when My Boomerang Won't Come Back, for instance, was out, I mean, you must have heard it at least once an hour.
Oh yeah.
Now, this I've got the whole album. I mean, I don't know what I'm doing with the album, but because you know, novelty records are basically more of a singles market. But that album, it says the Laugh Along album. Charlie Drake sings My Boomerang Won't Come Back and other fun songs for the family.
Yeah.
And it also contains his follow-up record, which was called I Bent My Assegai. Now, My Boomerang Won't Come Back is about, you know, Aboriginals in Australia.
Yeah.
And an assegai has something to do with Zulus in South Africa.
It's actually the Bantu tribe in
Oh,
Africa.
okay. Do you
And it's
know
a
what an
spear.
assegai? Oh,
it's a spear. It's like
Okay.
a thin, long spear.
Okay, I bent
Yeah.
my assegai.
Yeah.
Well, okay, I didn't know
so,
that.
yeah.
I was sitting there wondering, what is an assegai?
Well, I think it's one of those words that could have multiple meanings when everybody hears it, because no one's going to know what it is. So they're going to, kind of piece together, gee, wonder what that is. It must be something we shouldn't be talking about.
Anyway, the guy, a lot of people thought, including me, at the time this record was out, a lot of people thought it was an Australian singing it.
Right.
Because he sounds
English,
so Australian, and there's so many vernacular terms in the song that
right.
you sort of assume it's a guy from Australia singing it. But it's actually an English comedian.
That's right.
And his name is Charlie Drake, and he's kind of a vaudeville kind of a guy. And he was in several British movies and Royal Variety shows at the London Palladium, a vaudeville comedian. And his real name is Charles Springall, and he was born in London, England in 1925. And when this first came out, there was a long version from the LP that was like 3 minutes and something. Mm-hmm. Radio complained that it was too long, and so to cut about a minute out of it, and we'll give it more high rotation airplay because we need to make room for commercials and stuff.
Oh, yeah.
So they cut the whole section out where he throws the boomerang up and it hits the flying doctor. And he goes, oh my God, I've hit the flying doctor. Anyway, they cut that whole part out. So I remember when I bought it on the single, I was really disappointed because there was a whole piece missing that I'd heard.
Well,
so that's why I got the album.
Anyway, when I was a kid, this song was so popular that people were selling boomerangs. And I remember getting a boomerang.
Well, I had a boomerang at home. I got
Yeah.
one at home, but you think I could find it?
Yeah.
Well, I
that would've
wanted
been
to bring it
perfect.
for the show, but I couldn't find it.
Oh, that would have been perfect. Yeah, but anyway,
It's in
so
its original packaging too. It's in a kind of a cellophane thing with a little story
that's
on
cool.
how to throw it and everything.
Well, I mean, you could never see a boomerang on someone's mantle or in a restaurant without somebody saying, my boomerang won't come back. I mean,
Exactly.
And the other thing that this guy did was because he being a comedian, but one of his little catchphrases that people still use today, a lot of English people, is hello, my darlings. Like that was his little catchphrase he used to use.
Charlie Drake.
Yeah,
Okay.
Charlie Drake. And a lot of English people still say that, like when they greet, like, you'll hear like, the Rolling Stones, they'll sort of say that to each other, and like, hello, my darling, and it's kind of a catchphrase that he sort of started.
Anyway, Charlie Drake with the immortal classic, My Boomerang Won't Come Back.
My boy Mac, why? What's wrong with him?
My boomerang won't come back.
Your boomerang won't come back.
My boomerang won't come back. My boomerang won't come back. I've waved the thing all over the place. Practiced till I was black in the face. I'm a big disgrace, the Aborigine race. My boomerang won't come back. I can ride a kangaroo.
Yeah, yeah.
Make kinkajou stew.
Yeah, yeah.
But I'm a big disgrace, the Aborigine race. My boomerang won't come back.
The banish him from the tribal and send him on his way. He had a backless boomerang, so here he could not say.
This is nice, isn't it? Getting banished at my time of life. What a way to spend an evening. Sitting on a rock in the middle of the desert with me boomerang in my hand.
1, 2, 3, kick. Come on, everybody, clap your hands. Ooh, you're looking good. Are you having a good time? I sure am. Do you like soul music?
Power sentence.
I bent my assegai.
You bent your assegai.
I bent my assegai. See the jelly roll to the sky.
Speak, you sinner. Speak, you sinner.
Well, I stood alone in the mood for war. Suddenly alarmed with the mighty roar. Took a flying leap. As it got near, I tried to lift my 6-foot spear. With a yell, I tripped and fell. Bent my assegai.
Humma, humma, nooka, nooka, uppa, ooh, ah. Humma, humma, nooka, nooka, uppa, ooh, ah. Silence! It is the sentence of this court that you be banished to Pygmyland.
Aha! Oh no, not that.
They're all bigger than me. I shall very likely get Pygmalion.
Yeah, that one is called I Bent My Assegai, which is sung supposedly from the viewpoint of a Zulu warrior in South Africa. And before that, we heard My Boomerang Won't Come Back. Now, originally that was 3 minutes 40 seconds. Radio stations complained it was too long, so they cut about a whole minute out of it.
Yeah.
So to get the long version,
that's why you bought the album.
You have to get the album. And actually, My Boomerang Won't Come Back made #1 here, and it was number 21 nationally on the charts for 6 weeks. But I Bent My Ass a Guy wasn't a hit at all.
Yeah, it's funny.
And you know, they should have at least played it and said, "Do you like this one?" Or but we never even got a chance. I never heard it. But that was the direct follow-up to My Boomerang Won't Come Back by Charlie Drake. Anyway, 1962 on the Capitol record label. Now we're going to go to an item that I heard was actually a real oldie. I heard it was actually a 78 on the Impossible record label from 1929.
And it was a 78.
But was it out in 1929? That's
well, according to all the information I've read, including Benny Bell's son has a website or something, and he said it came out in 1946.
Okay, well, it just that it sounds so old. I mean, with the what is that, a clarinet, and they kind of papa kind of waltz time backing in it. Right. It sounds real ancient.
Yeah.
You know, it sounds like real ragtimey.
Yeah. Well, he did a lot of those sort of suggestive sort of songs from that time period did have an old feel to them, like because they were usually done sort of on a tight budget and stuff like that, and they're kind of done sort of underground. So I think they had an older sound anyway when they came out, which may be why they sound older than they did.
Well, actually, it was re-released in 1975, and it was on the charts 4 weeks and made number 30.
That's right.
If you can believe it.
That's amazing.
And I've got the reissue here, and maybe I can slip that in there. Can you stick it in the front there?
But you still hear this shaving cream like on the radio now.
Oh, do you?
Oh, yeah.
Because I haven't heard it in long.
Oh, I've heard it like within the last.
I don't think I've ever heard it on the radio.
I've heard it within the last year for sure.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Okay. Anyway, the flip side is called "The Girl from Chicago," and this was on a thing called Cocktail Party Songs in 1946. So would that have been like one of those, what they called an album in 1946?
Yeah, probably an album of 78.
An album of 78. So they would have a whole bunch of singles in a packet.
That's right.
You know, in a fold-out
with a color photo of him, probably.
And then they would call that an album because they didn't have the means to stick it all on one disc.
Yeah.
At that time.
I mean, it got the resurgence from a DJ back east, I think in like Detroit or something. Somebody dared him to play the record on his show. And so
it's very risque.
Yeah, it is.
And when you say you heard it on the radio in the last year, I kind of go, well, what radio station was that? Because it's the kind of thing where radio kind of balks at playing things like this because it's very risque.
Yeah, it was, I forget, it was like probably sort of a talk and music thing.
Because everything in it applies to a word that rhymes with hit.
That's right.
But it's actually a dirty word.
That's right, yeah.
And we don't want to say that word. But you think he's going to say the word and he never does.
That's right.
And that's what makes it funny.
Well, anyway, this DJ that played it got such a huge reaction that's how it got reissued and became a hit again.
Oh, okay. Anyway, the guy's real name was Ben Samberg, and he was from Brooklyn, New York. But it actually says on the single, vocal by Paul Wynn.
Yeah, I don't know why that is.
So that would be the singer, and then it would be this guy's band.
It must be.
Benny Bell's band or orchestra backing up Paul Wynn. Okay, can you hand me the record there and I'll slip it on. This has got to be some kind of risque classic, that's for sure. A thing called Shaving Cream, Benny Bell, 1946.
I have a sad story to tell you. It may hurt your feelings a bit. Last night when I walked into my bathroom, I stepped in a big pile of shaving cream. Be nice and clean. Shave every day and you'll always look keen. I think I'll break off with my girlfriend. Her antics are queer, I'll admit. Each time I say, darling, I love you, she tells me that I'm full of shaving cream. Be nice and clean, shave every day, and you'll always look keen.
A great record, and a record that was very worthy of revival, because it originally came out in '46, apparently, and was re-released in '75 and was a hit then.
Oh, yeah.
When it was re-released. Now, our theme today is novelty records, and one record that qualifies as a novelty record, although it isn't actually intentionally a novelty record, is a record which was extremely unusual in that it was sung in a foreign language, Japanese, and it made the top of the charts in Japanese, sung in Japanese, performed by a Japanese artist in North America.
Yeah, like the only time that's ever happened.
And I can't think of any other time a Japanese artist ever had a #1 hit with a song, especially one that's sung in Japanese.
Yeah, no.
So it's definitely a novelty record. I mean, people like the novelty of it.
Yeah, and it's not novelty in the way that it's like a weird or wacky song. I mean, it's a beautiful song, beautiful
It's
tune.
beautiful. It's beautifully sung, and the guy has he's got as fabulous a voice as, say, Roy Orbison.
Oh yeah,
I mean, he's got a wonderful voice.
It's interesting you should say Roy Orbison, because Elvis really liked Roy Orbison and would never do his songs for the longest time because he said, how could I do it any better?
Exactly.
But Elvis wanted to record Sukiyaki. He wanted to get it transferred to English and then do it. But it became that was on the way up when it first sort of came out, but it became such a huge hit, he thought, well, what's the point? It's a #1 hit. How am I going to do that any better?
It is sung in Japanese. What does it mean in English? I mean, has anybody ever stopped and thought and figured out what the translation is?
It basically says that I'm walking with my head up to stop the tears from, falling out of my eyes, and watching the stars and stuff. Is basically someone walking along, basically feeling sorry for themselves, but something's happened to them in their life that they're upset about, and they're walking with their head up to stop the tears from falling out. It's it's just kind of a someone that's.
Well, that sounds kind of beautiful.
It is. Oh yeah, there's more lyrics to it than that.
Yeah.
But it's that sort of thing. But it is a beautiful song, and it was revived like in 1981. This group called A Taste of Honey. It was a female duo.
Oh, okay.
And they recorded it in English.
Oh, really?
And it was a big hit.
Huh. I don't think I've ever heard that version. Well, that was a hit, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
It's a little bit different, but very, the tune's there. You could tell.
I could remember.
I tried to find it actually to bring it on the show, but I just couldn't find it anywhere.
I remember when disc jockeys used to play it on the air back in 1963. When it was out, I remember they used to make a big thing out of pronouncing the guy's name, Q Sakamoto.
Oh, what's really weird? It's all, again, like, on here they say, on the back of the album it says, Sukiyaki has been selling like chop suey. I mean, chop suey is Chinese food, not Japanese food. And it's so weird that they would, they obviously have no idea.
Anyway, when it came out, a lot of people thought that it was actually a female singer.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh.
And it actually made the #1 on the North American charts and it was on the charts for 12 weeks. Now this guy, Q Sakamoto, he had 8 hit albums and 15 hit singles in Japan. And it became a hit because a Washington State disc jockey named Rich Osborne of KORD radio played the song regularly, and eventually it went nationwide for some strange reason. Unfortunately, Q Sakamoto, who was born in 1941 in Kawasaki, Japan, unfortunately he died in a plane crash in 1985 at the age of 43 near Tokyo. So I guess about 22 years after this record came out, he passed away in a plane crash.
Well, I always used to look at the cover, and it was kind of weird. He was smoking. He's like, and I used to think, that's kind of weird. He's sitting on this box. Like, I thought it was kind of a tacky sort of cover. I don't know if you see that there.
Right.
But anyways, I found out later that the box in Japanese says dynamite. so really? It all makes sense now. That's why he's got the cigarette.
Okay. Well, that's definitely a novelty.
Yeah, it's a novelty in itself.
Anyway, Q Sakamoto with Sukiyaki, 1963.
こぼれないように思い出す春の日一人ぼっちの夜上を向いて歩こうにじんだ星を
An artist called Q Sakamoto. And Sukiyaki was just an unbelievably huge hit in 1963. And we're going to go out with a record which is definitely a novelty record in the novelty vein by Jim Backus and Friend.
That's right.
Now you have a theory as to who the friend is.
Yeah, I think, it sounds like her too. I think it's Phyllis Diller. And I've read somewhere where it was Phyllis Diller, but then I've also read where they say it isn't Phyllis Diller. But I don't know, listen to the voice and...
Well, it makes it even funnier when it's not credited, when it just says Jim Backus and Friend.
Well, the thing is weird, with the internet now, and everybody with computers, you'd think that information would be around. I mean, it wasn't like Jim Backus was some little, nobody. I mean, he was on, Gilligan's Island for years, and he played Mr. Magoo. I mean,
and he also played James Dean's father.
That's right,
in Rebel Without a Cause.
That's right, yeah.
And anyway, he was born in 1913 in Cleveland, and he died of pneumonia in 1989, aged 76. This tune actually made number 40. It's called Delicious, and this guy was just, a wonderful artist who basically made us laugh.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, this record is so funny.
And the voice, his voice.
It's about people, a couple of people. I get the feeling it's a husband fooling around after work, with somebody from the office.
Yeah, it gives you that kind of impression.
Yeah, and it gives you that impression. And they're in a club and they're having a drink, and then he goes, they're getting so into it. And the funniest part is when he goes, "I even like the cork." Anyway. My name is Michael Willmore. The show is Rockinitis. This has been a look at novelty records, and we're going to end off with Delicious by Jim Backus and Friend on the Jubilee record label.
Delicious! Oh, have some more. Get the waiter and... Hombre. I'll put on the paper hat. Get out the lamp. I even like the cork. Waiter, more. Champagne. Oh, keep pouring it. Oh, this is every night, New Year's Eve. Wait there. You got it, every night we're gonna do this. I don't care. Lose the job every day. What are you gonna do? Oh, it's coming due.